Day 23 of our Japanese tour, October 2018, we visited the Nagasaki Museum of History. We travelled from Hiroshima to Nagasaki on a JR train, and one of the many exhibits or tourist attractions that we visited was the Nagasaki Museum of History. You can pause and read each photograph or exhibit. Christians had an influence in Nagasaki, and this bloke was a member of the embassy and visited Rome and got his portrait painted in Venice. And here are some of the Catholic members of the church. I have no idea what these objects are for, but obviously trade goods, and Nagasaki was a major port in those times of the Edo period, etc. This is a model of how they built the stone bridges, and there's 7 or 10 stone bridges in Nagasaki. The main tourist bridge was built in this style in the photographs. You can pause this and read it. Basically it shows the influence of the Chinese culture on Nagasaki during the trading period of 1582 onwards, and the shogun had embassy staff in that area to control smuggling and courts and such. And Chinese influence included the marketplaces, festivals, the building of houses, and dragon races. It was interesting to note that the Chinese quarter was built to control the Chinese in the Edo period, similar to the Portuguese quarter, and then later on in a couple of centuries they opened up Japan to foreign trade properly, and that Chinese quarter diminished. You can read the story if you pause this. The following is a model of the Chinese quarter. This photograph shows the different quarters of the Dutch and the Chinese quarter to control Christianity and isolate them in the 1500s. It describes a float used in the Kuching festival. There is a replica of the local magistrate's residence, and his job was to administer the law for the shogunate and punish smugglers and other criminals. Nagasaki played a big way in the modernisation of Japan during the Edo period and onwards, and here's some interesting photographs of people that were visitors and residents of the town. Here's a clock imported into Japan by the Dutch. The Dutch had a great influence in creating books and describing Japanese history and horticulture, and here's some models of or drawings of the Dutch quarter, and again the Christians were isolated and some were persecuted, and here follows some of the Dutch that actually wrote books. This bloke wrote the history of Japan at that time. The next bloke wrote a history of the botany of Japan. And there's a few others you can pause and read if you can. You can pause each of these and read them if you want, but basically they're describing how the Europeans had an influence in the Nagasaki port with trade and culture and modernisation of Japan, and these are some of the people that were involved in that period. Here's a collection of some novelty things found or taken from the Dutch Quarter. That's the end of this video. The video was produced by myself, and it's our 23rd day of our Japanese tour, October 2018, the Nagasaki Museum of History and Culture.